It started from Google.
Great. So I guess all of you out here are of great interest to blockchain as a topic, and that's why we are all here for. Just to give you a brief about why we are doing this, right? So we have a team from Algorand Foundation, and we have signed up, that is TI Bangalore has signed up an MOU with them early this year. And the intent or the objective is to facilitate knowledge exchange and networking among startups, investors, industry experts, across the blockchain, Web 3.0, and related verticals. Today's session is one of the multiple programs that we have planned together. It's a joint venture that we have done together. And the topic, of course, is driving supply chain transformation from within, and if blockchain can actually be proved to be a catalyst for this change. As we all know, blockchain, as we all know, has many benefits, such as enhanced transparency, improved efficiency, and increased trust. In fact, I was just talking to the team of Anil and Dr. Nikhil and Christine about how are we, is it an oxymoron, right? Because you're saying in one side transparency, in the other side we're talking about efficiency and the trust. So it's pretty interesting, actually. I'm sure it's interesting for all of you. So while blockchain holds immense promise, there are some challenges to overcome, such as scalability and standardization. I'm sure most of you are aware of it. While blockchain is not a silver bullet, it has the potential to be a transformative force in supply chain. So by addressing the various challenges and fostering collaborations, we intend to unlock the true potential of blockchain technology and create a more efficient, transparent, and trustworthy global supply chain network. So we are going to be talking about a panel discussion out here, and we will be exploring the Gartner Hype Cycle and Traceability Platform to understand the blockchain's progress and challenges. Just a slight hiccup we have here. As we all know, there is the traffic, which is always a problem at Bangalore. So there is one of the speaker who is slightly delayed, but we do have a solution for that. I would request our esteemed panelists of today's session to kindly come on stage as I call upon them. Mr. Avira Tharakan, founder of Renai.io. Please applaud. And then we have Dr. Nikhil Varma, who is currently filling in. He's a tech lead, Algorand Foundation India. He's going to be filling in for Mr. Abhijit Pegu, founder LW3, who will be joining in shortly. And of course, to chair the session, we have Mr. Anil Kakani, Vice President and India Country Head, Algorand Foundation. The floor is yours, gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Surya, and thank you all for being here today for what I think is a very interesting topic and one that we spend a lot of time at Algorand Foundation. Can you all see, Avira? Should we move over a little bit? Yeah, you're hidden behind. And let me also say thank you to not only Surya, but the entire TI Bangalore team. Ritu, good to see you here, and I think Madan will be here shortly. This partnership is very important because it's our first entry into Bangalore in a very kind of structured way. We've been active in across India for the past year plus. And the focus of our work is really not only educating and broadening the understanding of the utility of blockchain, but also working with startups and with developers so that we not only understand how blockchain can be utilized, but we start building solutions. And the solutions that we support and really engage with at Algorand are solutions that have real world utility. Solutions that are certainly, we all hear about NFTs, gaming, lots of discussion about crypto as an investment opportunity. But for us, blockchain is a tool, an empowering tool to bring more efficiency, scalability, inclusivity in the world we live in. And verticals, so we're active across numerous verticals, and we'll be doing events in Bangalore throughout the year around identity, around supply chain, healthcare, different areas, different vertical sustainability where blockchain can be utilized. But today, we're of course going to talk about supply chain. And we're joined again by my colleague Nikhil, who's filling in, while Abhijit from LW3, who's flown in from Assam earlier today, and Avira from Kerala, who's here and going to talk about the use of blockchain in the case of accessing finance, actually, through and its role, blockchain's role of how blockchain can empower. I think with regard to food, the supply chain of food and accessibility to finance. But before we get into that, I'd like maybe Nikhil, since he's on the stage right now, to talk about at a high level, before we get into the actual use cases, into the founders who are already innovating in a really unique way that I think will be eye-opening on how blockchain's already being utilized for tracking traceability, access to finance. But maybe Nikhil, you can talk about, as Nikhil teaches supply chain. He's a professor across universities across the globe, teaches on the role of blockchain in supply chain management. So maybe, Nikhil, why don't we start with just a few high-level comments on where does blockchain come in? What problems does blockchain help solve in the area of supply chain management at a very high level?
Hello, everyone. Well, when we talk about supply chain, when we slowly stopped using the word supply chain, we started using the word value chain, because that's how the transfer of value happens. And what we've seen with technology, with so much of partitioning of production, manufacturing in certain countries, some countries specializing in services, this whole supply chain network has become very complex. And complexity has brought in something which is not very easy to manage, which is transparency. So at the end of a supply chain, even if you are innovating and building some kind of a value, if you go upstream, as you say, all the way up to the first raw material, it is almost opaque to you. And companies are investing or have been investing a lot of money to be able to get that transparency out, to be able to make sure that we know from whom we are procuring, to be able to make sure that our name is in the line, and if anything goes wrong with our procurement, our brand is going to get a hit. So that's one aspect which is a problem from a corporate perspective. The other problem that we see in this supply chain is that this integration has happened over the years. So some kind of a monopoly of power, because people want transparency, so to be able to get transparency and trust, they rely on brand names. So these smaller players who could have been a part of this supply chain cannot be a part of this supply chain anymore, because they have to sell it to some big player because they command the trust and power in that network. Now this creates an avenue of, lack of fairness. People are not paid the right wage. Power brokers are holding control. People who are, we call it value chain, but people who are adding value are not paid fairly for the value that they are adding. And this is where a technology, a transformation that can be caused by a technology like blockchain can actually help in. It's not like you can go one day and say, hey, we are doing everything in blockchain and now all these problems are fixed. We have to start step by step, take baby steps, start with maybe just identification. So when we look at this whole supply chain, where can we make changes in an enterprise? It could be either upstream or towards the side of the customer. Does that?
Yeah, I think that's a good starting point. So one thing I'd like you to just touch on before I bring Avira into the conversation. So if again, you've talked about a problem that we're trying to solve, and it's both empowering the company that's trying to prove the origin, prove the provenance of whether it be the raw materials that went into the product, where they came from, maybe the type of labor, was there child labor used, maybe used for ESG reporting, which are all important factors, maybe used to manage the supply across different vendors, right? It has application. And then, of course, as you mentioned, empowering the end consumer. As the consumer, we increasingly want to know, where did this product come from, right? Is it sustainable? All these types of things we feel that we are entitled to know, and we make decisions based on those things. But still, what you haven't touched on is, how does blockchain help solve that? And so if you can just give just to set the context before we go into actually talking about what Avira is doing at Renai.ai.
Sure. So, it's not that we don't have technology. I mean, supply chain, SAP, SCM, all these technologies are there. But this Web 2 technology is pretty siloed. So organizations have implemented some kind of supply chain management, logistics, inventory management within their premises right now. The reason why they would not want to share information with one another is because lack of trust. If you get to know who my distributor is, then you will work directly with who my source is, you will work directly with my source. And even and I know I'm not adding value here except for controlling the power, then I'm no longer in that network. So this lack of trust in each party in this whole value chain or supply chain, as we call it, becomes an impediment for the current day technology to be able to support it, firstly. And there is no way where we can create transparency and privacy at the same time. This might sound like an oxymoron, but we are able to achieve that in a technology like blockchain, where we are able to tokenize information, create some kind of verifiable identification, some kind of verifiable credentials rather, which kind of certifies certain things to you, and as the goods shift hands, transfer go downstream, the information gets attached immutably to it, without needing to have a technology or a Web 2 platform, or a platform rather, the current day technologies that we have to integrate with one another. This can be a free product which can just move in that blockchain with a traceability perspective. So blockchain creates or gives us this avenue which is not possible. I can say that very, very with a straight face. Some people say, oh, we can still implement SAP. Yes, you can. Will you share data with your SAP, with your people downstream? Or would the upstream people information, have you ever seen lots of upstream information? This is something which blockchain enables. This is something that blockchain brings in. And if we are able to bring in most parties, there will be a FOMO effect. See, this is not playing with cryptos or anything. We are talking about a real world physical asset which is moving from upstream to downstream, adding more metadata to it, adding more verifiable credentials to it, and that verifiable credentials brings in that whole package of information that goes to the customer at the very end. That brings in the whole package of regulators having more oversight, clarity on what this product is all about, gives in more information about whether there is fairness. If we couple it with smart contracts, gives in more information about whether people are fairly paid and timely paid. All these things can be enabled by blockchain. So hence, blockchain is definitely going to transform the way a supply chain operates currently. Supply chain definitely needs a big change, and we've seen those problems during the time of COVID, where we didn't know where half of the things were stuck. And we were still feeling the pain until last year. If you remember, last year, car manufacturers were suddenly started having a shortage of microprocessors. And because this was an effect of pre-COVID days. So if we don't have that kind of a clarity, transparency, and multiple parties being able to get in without too much of resistance, we will not be able to have a supply chain which would feed 1.5 times the world population that we have right now.
Thanks, Nikhil. And this concept of tokenization is really core to a point that Surya made in her introduction. How do you create transparency while still ensuring privacy? And privacy could be protection of data, could be protection of your identity, where the end consumer still wants to know all these things, but you still have to protect privacy. And in India, of course, and in many countries with new laws around protecting individual level information, the need for privacy gets stronger and stronger, and again, something that blockchain can help deliver. Avira, thank you so much for being here. So we met Avira not long ago. So we start actually tomorrow. Algorand kicks off one of the first. It's called a startup lab, one of the first programs of this sort in the world with T-Hub in Hyderabad, with companies, startups from all over India. Avira is one of the ones that was chosen among 20 that were chosen to come into the startup lab program, which is, I'm going to let him talk about the solution that they've been building at Renai. And let me just start jump in. So Avira is here from Kerala, and again, Bangalore is of course a startup capital of India, but we're finding gems all over this country. And so Avira, thank you for being here from Kerala, for making the trip, and looking forward to spending a lot of time with you over the coming months. So tell the folks here what you're doing at Renai. What problem are you helping solve?
So, blockchain has got a lot of words attached to it: Web3, digital ledger technology, DLT, or blockchain, etc. So, one of the technologies that came out was, crypto was a technology, right? You don't look at it as a currency, but technology. What it means that it represents a token which you can buy and sell. This is crypto. But what if that crypto represented a physical asset somewhere, right? And you could buy that crypto that represents a physical asset, start trading on them because of Web3 and tokenization. The moment you represent a physical asset on a token, by virtue of the technology, it becomes tradable. You can buy it, sell it, etc. So what we are doing now, in the field of export markets, we all know that if an exporter wants credit, he goes to the bank, he has a letter of credit, and he basically gives the bills of lading to the bank, and they finance the exporter. And the cost of financing is India-based, which means the bank will always charge their bank rate plus the charges what the profits of etc. the bank makes. What we're doing is by tokenizing a particular container of, for example, we're starting off seafood with, let's say, worth $100,000 to $120,000. He doesn't have to go to the bank to get money. You can tokenize it and offer it to a buyer, let's say in Japan, which has got a 1% interest rate, right? And that person may require, let's say, a 4 or 5% return, which is very good for him because he's getting 3 times more than what he would actually get. And let's say we add our own fees, we could bring down a 14, 15, 16% and additional charges, all what the bank charges, to let's say 8 or 9%. So in our case, tokenization in blockchain is literally bringing down the cost of finance by almost half, right? Especially in the export market, because of course you'll have to get the dollars inflow. And along with smart contracts, which smart contracts are where if a transaction happens, you don't really need a particular person to approve or decline. It's basically automatic. And when the importer pays the money, let's say in a month or two, the token holders are given back the money with that particular buying and selling rates. So in our case, we are on the supply chain, export market, tokenizing the export process, giving businesses an alternative to banks by putting this entire process on the global peer-to-peer platform. So, ladies and gentlemen, what we're actually doing with blockchain now and DeFi is that this is going to make interest rates flat all over the world. It's a major disruption, and you know that interest rates in one country is high, another country is low, and people spend a lot of money. Let's say 15% in India, 1% in Japan. That is just going to go. That is the level of disruption that technology is going to bring about. So it's a very interesting case for the export trade.
Thanks, Avira. And so, of course, what they're doing right now is going from using blockchain in supply chain to actually move to a way to bring liquidity in also because of the knowledge that's being captured through the supply chain process.
Yeah, so between across global trade application to funding, there's a 1.7 trillion gap between the finance that is applied for and the finance that has been given. It's close to 1.7 trillion.
Wow.
And all of them are being decided by banks. And a lot of other options in terms of, we're also part of insurance companies changing from recourse to, non-recourse, recourse to non-recourse, and using smart contracts, as I mentioned, across. So there is a huge gap. So we're starting out with food because, food has got expiry dates, rejection issues, and the faster the exporter gets and money from the to the markets, it basically reaches back to the suppliers also. So you're actually connecting agri-tech and getting the farmers faster money in the process. So yeah, it is a global blockchain is and DeFi will just definitely disrupt what crypto did for payments, which means I don't need a bank to transfer money between two people.
Let me actually I see that Abhijit has arrived. Welcome, Abhijit.
Thank you, sir.
I'll have you introduce LW3. So Abhijit has been building on Algorand for the past little less than a year, I think. We discovered and actually were out in Guwahati not that long ago to learn more about what LW3 was doing with a really unique use case that's gotten a lot of visibility actually globally. And Abhijit and his company LW3 was the winner of a national competition that we ran last year, leading to the Algorand Foundation's Impact Summit that we held in Delhi. And out of about 180 startups, Abhijit's company LW3 came out on top, and will be joining us as part of the T-Hub's Startup Lab in a few days as well. Abhijit, maybe spend a few minutes telling the audience what you're doing at LW3. We'll get into the blockchain piece in a minute, but at a high level, give us a little bit of your journey and what you've been working on at LW3.
Thank you, Anil, for having me here. So it's always a pleasant time to be in Bangalore every time I come. But however, this time the traffic was too bad for me. So I underestimated. I came from Whitefield, so I missed by close to 40 minutes.
No worries, no worries. I'm glad you're here.
First of all, apologies for that. So LW3, we, in one line, if I could summarize for you guys, we're creating passports for products. So just like humans, we have passports to prove our identity. So similarly, for products which matter, like it could be drugs, it could be EV batteries going forward, and it could be, pharmaceuticals, it could be apparels, it could be a lot of other things. So we are providing unique real-world tokenization of every product and showing and attaching a passport to each of these products, so that as a consumer, when in the end, so you can verify digitally through your smartphone, your NFC enabled or QR enabled smartphone, to verify the genuinity of a product. So this has come from a perspective, like I used to go to gym, though my weight doesn't justify that. I started going since last year. So I got my hands into a lot of protein powders, which obviously the instructors used to advise. And once I take the protein powder to my home, my mom always used to say, don't take these protein powders, they are not good for your health, do something naturally. Despite that, I checked the QR code which was there in one of the protein powders, I remember. So it led me nowhere. It took me to a point, to a particular link where it asked some pin, and I opened the lid, checked the pin inside. It doesn't work. And similarly, I noticed a similar pattern for an apple which I purchased while on the street. It was saying the apples came from Switzerland, Swiss apples. It was costing around 800 rupees. I'm like, so, but then there is no proof to such products. So I thought, then of course with my consulting background, I started reading up these things, that how blockchain and IoT could be the answer to this, supply chain problem. and why it has not been answered till now, and why it is the right time. So we started with the things which are available in Assam. Like, of course, you could guess Assam tea. So the Assam tea was sent to Canada by an importer called Defy Tea in Canada, and they wanted provenance, and that this tea which has come to Canada is coming from Assam and not from Sri Lanka, Vietnam, or Darjeeling, or somewhere else. So we put our passports to each of the products, and they are going to be, I think, launched this month. So probably I can share the launch event very soon. Then we started with some special spices which were exported to Lithuania and Netherlands. This is a special kind of turmeric which is found in Meghalaya. It has 7 to 8% more curcumin. So earlier what happened, the Dutch importers used to fly to Meghalaya, Northeast Assam, every 6 monthly and take pictures and videos to prove to their customers there it has come from Meghalaya. But now with that provenance of the passport, it can have data of that geolocation as well as the timestamp. And we have encrypted the passport in such a way that it could be or decrypted with our application. So it has become easier for our customers in Netherlands to verify, this has come from this particular, at least the location they can verify, the proof of travel from this point A to point B.
Can you explain that a little bit? When you say it can be used to demonstrate proof of travel, how does it demonstrate proof of travel?
So we have an application suite on Android and iOS, one on the business side, one on the end consumer side. So what we give our businesses, we empower them with this suite of applications where they can encode the data, encode the geolocation of the time and place of manufacturing, which is in fact one of the key aspects highlighted by digital product passport regulation that is going to come in Europe this year. And I think they have tried to standardize it across, they've collected traceability or provenance solution providers like us from France, from America, and also from Japan. So this three things matter. One is the geolocation of that particular product, that it has been sourced from that particular point of Earth. Second is the time of production, from where it is. And interestingly, the smartphone, pretty simply, the Google, the map or the location, geolocation services of our smartphone today has these two capabilities. It can collect we use on a daily basis, like send your location through WhatsApp or when did you come, and you can collect the timestamp and geolocation. So we just take through the smartphone or Google services or Android services for the matter. And then finally is the certificate of authenticity, like who is the guarantor, who is the trust authority. So in most of the cases, like the spices, this is the Spice Board of India. In case of tea, it's the Tea Board of India. So this is how we collect, in short, the geolocation.
Excellent. Let me ask you both a question, because we still live in a time where, and I think there are even some conversations we've had before the session today of people understanding, okay, blockchain though, right? So at the end of the day, whether it be to a company who's going to use your solution or to an individual who's going to use it to feel empowered that I'm buying a tea from Assam that's actually from Assam. How difficult is it today to for that user to be able to utilize the solution that you wrote? Do people understand? Because it's not just about convincing and explaining to everyone here, but it's actually you have a commercial product, and we still seem to be in a time where there's a lot of uncertainty and confusion around what blockchain is. So tell me both in terms of its usability, but also in terms of understanding of the audience you're trying to sell your product to. What is that like? How difficult or easy is that?
Yeah, I think any technology takes its own time to sell or get adopted. You create a technology, it gets adopted. I think when DigiLocker was first introduced, there were still cops still asking for these original documents. Now you don't need them. there is trust that these documents are authentic and on the DigiLocker. So there will be some shift by enterprises, but I think the customers are pretty quick in adopting new technologies, as we see in crypto trading, etc. They just jumped on the bandwagon. So customers or individual customers, it's slightly easier as long as they know it's safe. It gives you better returns or better liquidity. They will come in. Enterprises, of course, it takes their own time, and that has their enterprise sales cycle. One of the good things about this time is that a lot of these technologies have been proven, and we can go to market with proven technologies versus the ones sort of just getting proved. I think it's the same thing when cloud came in about. It was are you going to move all the servers to somebody else's place? It's probably out of country, but then you did promise scalability and security, etc. And that's when you decided, look, I'm moving these files in servers in my room to a place that I've never been or seen, right? So that was the kind of adoption that cloud brought in. It's the same thing with crypto and blockchain. It's just the time, and since it's been running for so long, and we have proven technologies. I think it's become a de facto process now that you can use blockchain. Of course, as long as they get value, as in cheaper finance, better security, transparency, or even what if it can give their consumers better value.
And how about you can speak also because you have the DeFi element to your solution. Yep. What about in terms of transfer of money and liquidity? Is there the same?
Yeah, so we would use the same technology as transferring a token. Of course, the transparency and you will have fiat currency to buy these, and of course CBDC coming into play right now. We intend to use that to reduce the cost of finance and transaction. You don't have to really move into fiat every time. That would have cost us, but now with the digital currency, and if you use that, there's really no cost. I mean, very limited cost of finance as compared, because if you say charge 2%, 1% transaction fees, and the finance is for 3 months, that's like 1% or 2% for 3 months. That's not going to be viable. So DeFi, in terms of we're trying to bring, that's what the most priority, and that will never change, is the security, scalability, which is changing every day. I mean, today's security is not what we're going to do tomorrow. So the scalability and security and the trust that we need to give our customers has to be, super, trustworthy. Otherwise, it doesn't fly. We're going to hold so much of money on investors. So the security and the scalability has to be there all the time. Like I said, even if it's a server, or if it's a cloud, or if it's blockchain or DeFi, these never change.
Things that we call non-negotiables, right? That has to be there. Abhijit, how about you?
Yes. Well, rightly pointed out, enterprise adoption and in fact mass adoption is quite some time far away, in my opinion. Especially even enterprises asking, because I interact with businesses as my clients, and they ask me this question: why blockchain? Why not you store in the same ledger? And why blockchain always? Because you have a transaction fees per transaction of storage or something writing on chain. So I always get back to them saying this is immutable because the features of blockchain. So the cost benefit analysis when a client does for my case, I always tell them, yes, the cost of it's fractionally more costlier than a regular Web2 transaction on chain. However, the benefits you're getting, it's way more. I mean, the CBA is like pointing more than one all the time. So this I can explain to my clients. I have successfully pitched to a couple of businesses. However, government advocacy is, I believe, one of the key, because it's a deep tech, after all. Blockchain is a deep technology. And as we know, in deep tech adoption requires government advocacy, as well as huge awareness regarding the knowledge to educate the consumers or to educate about blockchain is the challenge, in my opinion. And for my case, for traceability, luckily or coincidentally, Europe is showing the way because they'll be launching this DPP initiative, Digital Product Passport initiative, by this year. And once they launch it, it would be mandatory for every exporter, wherever in the globe, if they want to ship any product to Europe, they need to give this passport on a public ledger with geolocation and time, and with a certificate of authority. So in that case, since it becomes a mandatory thing, as set by the government of Europe, so most of the exporters from India across the globe, they'll look for services or solutions which provide them the services. So that is a big opportunity, and as pointed out by even Boston Consulting Group and Ariani in a paper last year. So I believe that is the difficulty level of blockchain which is facing today. And yes, there are some light in the tunnel as well.
Right. Well, it's nice to have regulation be the market driver instead of a barrier for growth. For you, because again we're talking about financial transactions and movement of capital, where has regulation, if at all, been a constraint for your progress?
Yeah. So globally, and as with India as well, they're also releasing the fintech policy with respect to tokens. I think fractional ownership is already there with SEBI, and also globally tokenization regulations are coming in. But what we are starting out to do is, let's say you have a receivable of let's say $1,000. You would have started out by putting that receivable in your your accounts book. You would have moved it to the server a few decades ago, and it has advantages, disadvantages, and you move that record to the cloud maybe again a decade and a half ago. But now they're moving that receivable record to blockchain. Now, blockchain has a lot of features, such as that can be added to DeFi, tokenization, distributed. And so if you have to bring regulation, I would say it's more of going to be standards rather than regulations, because regulation would say you can't do this, right? You can't do that and that's it, right? So it would be more of standards that's going to come in. How would you tokenize? And already the government of Telangana, they've already started releasing the tokenization standard. The Swiss Finance Institute has come out with their own, and a lot of these regulators, so-called regulators, they're bringing in standards. So similar to the cloud, right? So there's no regulation around the cloud. What is there? There's a standard. You follow these protocols, securities, etc., and you can put even bank data on the cloud, right? So it's going to be more. We feel that going by what crypto. So crypto they tried to ban crypto. The RBI said you can't do it, but then the Supreme Court said no, you can, because it's a commodity. So the question of not doing it or regulate and say you can or can't be there, but there will be some sort of applications, such as before the payment wallet came in, there were no licenses in payment wallet, but they create the regulation around that. But it is, globally, it is moving, and some governments and countries have already started putting out these regulations and I would call standards for these enterprises to follow, so that you keep your assets safe or money safe. And RWA again is a huge, a very big area that people are working on. That they've seen there's no way they can regulate it, but they can probably standardize it.
Great. We'll keep going here, but I do want to say, I don't. If there are questions, please raise your hands, and we'll move into. It's okay if we move in, because I know it's already 6 o'clock. We started a few minutes late, but I'll come to you in just a minute, sir. Let me just ask a quick question, and then we'll open it up. So obviously, Algorand is a protocol, right, on which solutions are being built. There's many others, and when these types of solutions are ones that we jump towards, because they are things that require scale. There's obviously, when you have transactions like this happening, the certainty, the finality of the transaction, as well as of course, sustainability is important, and for us, it's a big part of Algorand that it's a carbon neutral. The pure proof of stake consensus mechanism is very low energy consuming. But I mean, I know you've worked on another chain and are looking to build on Algorand. Abhijit, I think you chose Algorand. I'd love to get your thoughts on kind of the differences and your thoughts on Algorand as a chain to build on. We believe in a multi-chain universe. We think that there will be different chains that have different advantages for different types of use cases. But would love to have you speak for a minute or two on that, and then we'll open it up. Yeah.
Sure. I think at one point of time, our business involves handling other people's money. right? And that requires a lot of compliance and trust on the platform, which we have to go bottoms up, trial it out with maybe a 1 container, 2 containers, 3, subject it to a lot of security protocols, and that's the only way it's there. We will start. We are already in the process of starting one of the biggest seafood containers from India to one of the largest importers in India, and we would be looking at 1 or 2 containers. But if it does grow, there is a likely order book of moving to 1,000 or 10,000 in the next year or so. Then that's like a total of 1,000 containers plus on a single client. So security does matter, and we'll have to go. And it's like the first car that was the first speeding ticket that was given for 14 kilometers, and then you go at 30 and you have to have the brakes. We just don't believe in acceleration. But we believe that the system should have the brakes, the steering should work, and acceleration, when to decelerate as well. So it's about the safety. If you look at a car, what would you do to build a car? The same kind of securities and protocols we like to bring in. And we believe with the kind of team and the background that Algorand had, we can actually look at this, because we would be, again, going to regulators or standards, say, hey, look, I can replace a bank as far as finance is concerned. And then they're going to, first thing, obviously, they're going to ask is, what about security? What about, you are handling somebody else's money? Why should we allow? There'll be a lot of, and if it does go south, I mean, you end up with a no-no from the regulators and say, you can't do this, which has happened to a lot of companies that we see. So the DNA has to be compliance and security from day one. And as in when we grow and build, I'm sure that we'll see this and how we can demonstrate this both to our clients, investors, and of course ourselves. How secure would you put in $1,000 on a container token, and we divide a container into, let's say, 10 using DeFi and protocol? Anil, would you be open to putting $1,000 as your investment? That's the key. And what would it take for you to trust us as when we go? That is going to be key as when you go.
Great, thank you. Abhijit, you?
Anil, I would sum up in 3 points. First is the block finality, which is less than 3 seconds now at Algorand. So that's cutting edge. Second, we have a network which is quantum resistant. That means it is ready with Falcon. I think Falcon has been chosen as a state proof, which in the advent of a quantum computer, which your entire encryption of the world will break down, your entire password of banks, anything, can be decrypted by that quantum computer in seconds. So that we are safe. Algorand is post-quantum network. Then the throughput, which is like 10,000 TPS at this point, and these transactions per second are not small entry into the ledger, but legit strong commands, like they're heavy transactions, and the throughput is high. And most importantly, the cost of transaction, which is 0.001 algos, that has been a lifesaver for us as a startup, because we intend to do billions of transactions, at least 40 million passports a year. So to be in the state of Visa, today Visa has a TPS of 37,000 transactions per second. And that's how the entire world is run on that Visa card, Visa network, which we're using day in, day out. To be that state of readiness, I think Algorand is right on track and it's green. And we are very fortunate, actually, that Algorand is providing such technological miracles on blockchain.
Excellent. Well, it's helpful for us to get that feedback. We, as a platform, these advantages and these aspects of our protocol are built with solutions like this in mind, and so it's important that we are delivering, and and we'll continue to make upgrades. Our inventor, our DevRel team, and the other thing I would say is, for those of you who are building solutions yourselves, the kind of support that we give to founders like Abhijit and Avira, to help ensure that they can deliver a secure, scalable solution is critical for us, and so it's good to get that feedback, and so thank you both. Sir, yes, please introduce yourself before the question.
Yeah, good evening. For Avira. Yeah, I think now it's better. Um, when we talked about the financing through the tokens, and there are lots of procedural things involved in terms of the forex and the exchange market, to exchange deals, because you have the multiple currencies which are being, there in the entire play. Now, at what stage you are in terms of these compliances, and then the meeting those all the requirements, and what are the hurdles which are being being faced? Because I think even in the normal course of time there are a hell a lot of issues which are there, and then I think we are not a freely convertible at all at this moment, so which puts much more restrictions and the challenges, and the in terms of the government authorities trying to be very skeptical about the whole thing, etc., etc. So it would be nice to know where do we stand and with respect to the solution in this aspect, and what is the way forward on that? Thank you.
Sure, thank you, sir. The whole transaction, of course, as of now would take place in dollars, because the exporter would quote it in dollars. The token investor will have to buy it in dollars. And when the importer pays, they also pay in dollars. And the settlement also happens in dollars. So we could, there are two options. One, the settlement can happen outside India, but India is also opening up with Gift City and financial centers to happen dollar trading within India as well. So as far as financials are concerned, because there are RBI regulations that the exporter must receive dollars, and he has to put it in. So the whole transaction of tokenization will happen in dollars. It is just that instead of a bank, somebody else is financing. That's the only difference that, basically, of course, there will be more compliance procedures as in when we go, but the whole transaction cycle will be happening in dollars. Whether it's going to be happening in India, we are yet to get a license for that, but it could happen outside of India as well. Sorry, yeah, we did it a couple of pilots, but we're still not sure about the security and the scalability. So we're not opened it up as yet. So we had to go back and find, and that's when we got together and look. We have somebody as our backup, because we're not looking to reinvent the wheel. It would be impossible to do what they're doing. Just like the cloud, right? There's no point in replicating what the cloud did. And we will focus on the business and the application, while as infrastructure, etc., is taken by the experts on the field. Yeah. It will be, but that is why we are working. Yes, absolutely. So. So this is where globally, for example, Swiss Finance Institute, etc., and all the other think tanks, they are releasing standards around tokenization, what you should do with DeFi, what are the protocols you should follow. So in business, as long as we comply with these solutions, they will say, go ahead. And that's again why we are not building these compliances on our own or standards our own. There are phenomenal, like the Swiss Finance Institute, they have released a whole page on tokenization, which we are relying on to build the technology from the standard perspective. From the actual technology, of course, to use Algorand and start developing the process. Yeah.
Okay, quick question.
What is the time frame you see to becoming commercially viable, to be available as a solution?
See, technically it's available. Right? The question is trust and scale. Instead of doing one container, we have to do 1,000. That's when we do it. So we will be piloting about 1 or 2 containers in the next 2 to 3 months or 6 months, or when the technology is ready. And then we'll have to open it up and see, is somebody hacking that technology or running away with that container, but the loss is minimal. If it does well, then the next question. So you have to plan for scale from the beginning. Even if you don't scale now, you have to plan for that scale.
Yeah, just to build on, my name is Vikas.
Hi, Vikas.
Just to build on the question and the point that you made, right? That you are trying to reduce the cost of money by kind of opening it up and tokenizing a physical asset, which in itself is quite a fascinating idea. Now, the question I have in mind is, are you envisaging this to be some kind of a marketplace? Because when you are going to do, let us say, 1,000 containers, you're thinking of a scale. And there are so many people who want that, capital to, pay, and you open it up and somebody in Japan or Europe can fund it because the cost of capital out there is much lower. Yeah. So how is this asset tokenization going to be available for those people who have resources and they can make there is an arbitrage which you are working on essentially is what I could make
It's
out.
a global platform. You could buy, just like crypto, you can buy it from India.
So it's a marketplace.
A marketplace. So, I was just saying, what crypto did from the fintech space was, today if you're transferring money from, let's say, UAE to India, there is a cost, 20%, 2%, 5%, and it's phenomenal. If you want to do $100, there's a minimum cost. Crypto, if I transfer money from here to you across the table or to somebody in the US, the cost of the transaction is still the same. They just sort of flatten the remittance fee, as we call it, and a lot of companies made millions and billions of money just by focusing on remittance business. So that is gone. So the same way DeFi and tokenization, it'll basically flatten the world as far as so you will have a person. So if you want to export $100,000 of containers, you will create a bill of exchange. Of course, that is also getting on the blockchain as well. You load the information, tokenize it. There is information as to who did it, KYC, etc. It can be bought by the Japanese guy, and he'll get it when the American guy pays.
But when you talk about crypto, there is some kind of a standardization.
Yes.
But here, every token would have a risk, profile associated with it, right?
Yeah.
Because it depends on the person who is making this token available. If
Yeah.
I am a risky kind of a customer, will, my, the score of credit score or whatever will reflect on the token, so that people can take a conscious call. Because tomorrow, if I am not available and somebody buys a token and physically the container lands in Kerala, what would the guy sitting in Japan do?
Yeah. So today, once you in the traditional shipping methodology, I can still finance a container. Like there are companies who finances the export even without blockchain or tokens. Right? You export something, you hand them over the bill of lading, etc. to them. There are companies like Credex and Crypt Capital, where you give the document to them as a negotiable or a holder's instrument, and they'll finance you. So this is happening on the business side of it, as a business process. Now, which is adding a layer of technology that is tokenizing it. By tokenizing it, it allows you to trade the token, DeFi, all those other features of. So just marrying the age-old factoring business model on the global scale and connecting them with the features of tokenization. That's all we're doing. And of course, that's what usually if you connect a map with a taxi, you get Uber. Similarly, if you marry the traditional business of factoring that existed for centuries, and you marry it with the DeFi blockchain tokenization protocol, this kind of process opens up. So if I'm exporting one container from India to the US, I need not go to the Indian bank who's charging me 15% interest plus. I can offer it to somebody else at an annualized percentage of let's say 7 or 8%, somebody in Japan. He himself, that person would not go and invest in FDs or put the money in the bank for his returns, right? So this is making the interest rates flat globally. That is amazing. We cannot comprehend what the effects of this will have globally in terms of finance.
Thanks. We have a question back here. Please
I'm
introduce yourself.
Hegde from DFORM Agriculture Supply Chain Optimization Company powered by blockchain. And what I wanted to understand is there any effort put by your foundation to convincing the government to use in agriculture supply chain optimization? It definitely reduce 30% cost and then value to the farmers community. So is there any attempt you put across to convince the government to bring regulation? So last 4 or 5 years, we are working on, we are not able to bring that kind of a change at the government level. So
I'm sorry, can you repeat the 30% cost on?
Cost of, supply chain optimization solution used by blockchain, we can able to reduce your supply chain optimization and then reduce the cost and then bring better value to the farmer community. So now we are emphasizing on the government to bring kind of a regularity in the sense people can use this kind of a solution at their each supply chain entities, so that they are able to bring optimization, so that we can remove the middleman and then reduce supply chain cost and then bring a better value to the farmer community as that way.
So thank you for your question. A lot of our effort is around, there's a question over here also just after, but a lot of our effort is around demonstrating for the government how blockchain can deliver value, right? And so I think before we go, and I'm not sure where this 30% cost that you're referring to, what exactly that is, but in the application of blockchain for agri-tech, use cases, we have a number of actually use cases being built on Algorand for removing intermediaries for access to fertilizer, or for farmers to earn carbon credits by being, by reducing use of water and reducing methane emissions for carbon credits. So we have a number of really exciting initiatives and solutions being built, and our intent is, as we can demonstrate the value of these solutions for the average person, right, the impact of utility of blockchain, then to engage government, with those use cases. Because if we just go, advocating for lower tax or something, that has not been our approach. We're working with governments in state of Goa and Telangana and other places where there's tremendous amount of receptivity for building solutions on blockchain. So I'd love to, we can chat maybe a little afterwards, but absolutely agree that government understanding how important, how powerful blockchain can be is a part of our mission in India and across the globe.
Hey, hi, good evening. Firstly, congratulations to both of you, and all the best for the startup event that is going to come up. Firstly, to look back is, you look at physical asset tokenization. What is the challenges while pitching to the customer in terms of to have an additional cost coming with a physical, because there will be some kind of an additional cost which comes into that. The second question is, if there are a few already existing players using different platforms, so where do you see that amalgamation and that cross-platform compatibility also come in? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I think the first part of it is regarding the cost, right? Because if I put a passport to every product, that means it adds at least less than $1 cost to it. So my clients, whichever I've pitched so far, and what their interest lies is whether it can create more than $1 value. If it's costing me $1, so whether my brand or where I'm losing, like where there's a loss, I can curb that loss. For example, now, let's say you might understand that $4.5 trillion is the market of counterfeit goods in the market today. And if you want to plug brands, for example, the most hit is footwear. Over the past decade, the United States government has published a notorious market list, NML, you can look, and footwear has always topped the ranks of counterfeits. And there are brands suffering, in the US alone $600 billion are lost due to counterfeit goods. And mostly they come from China, has been the exporter of goods, counterfeit goods, and it's routing through even Hong Kong. So in short, if I can plug the revenue loss that's happening due to counterfeit, so then the solution obviously becomes attractive to them. So that is the first part. I think the cost benefit analysis, it has to come viable for him. Second question, if you could repeat, if I just... Right. So interoperability is quite important today. In fact, for Algorand also, it is also important, because there are a lot of good blockchains at par or less. I'm nobody to compare, but there are a lot of good chains. Cardano is there, there is Avalanche, but for people like us who are building assets on chain, like we are building LW3s and building an asset on chain on Algorand, or Avira is building an asset on chain. So we should have cross interoperability, which is like we already have a switch, like in our application, but we have not launched it now, but the tech stack is ready in case a client wants to upload his data on Solana, right? If a client wants to upload his data on, let's say, Ethereum, So they should be able to, because we cannot cut their freedom. And at the same time, makes the data from Algorand talk to the data of Solana or talk to the data. So interoperability is a core problem of the blockchain trilemma, and everybody is trying to solve that. And the entire community is trying to solve it, yeah.
Just to also update that, so he would deal with the passport, I will deal with the finance. So there would be some collaboration required from both sides that, okay, he is exporting as empty and somebody wants to buy that container and give early finance to the exporter. So we would not know what technologies people like him or anybody else is using. So that is, again, interoperability is one of the core features, and that has to be a standard. Unlike a cloud, you can't move data from the Amazon to, let's say, AWS to Azure overnight. But these kind of solutions, you can move the token and data. That is why decentralization becomes such an important part, because it's going to be more driven more by ecosystem players rather than a central person controlling the whole process. Say, look, if I was on the cloud, he would have to process the data passport. On the cloud, I will have to store receivables on the Azure cloud, for example. And if the customs is not on Azure or they would not want to use it, there was no way that we could transact the deal entirely. So interoperability and the concept of building multi-options has to start from day one, as you see, and that is exactly how it's going to move forward as well.
Yeah, I think it's a great point, and certainly at Algorand, the focus and commitment to standards, and that involves engagement with other, platforms as well, to make sure that we all are operating with this, with a certain set of standards that and identities at the core of it, right? So enabling people to go and, because we can't expect everyone to be building or wanting to, live on one chain. But if I'm on one chain and I want to, sell or transact with someone on another, then we certainly are involved in processes right now to ensure that these standards are ones that we're compliant with. Sure. We have a question here, Surya. I'll leave it to you to tell us when we need to wrap up. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. Good evening. I'm Nagavishnu. I'm from Cisco. I have two questions here. One is, so both the companies here are dealing with token representation of a physical entity, right? So how do you ensure the tight coupling between that token and the physical entity? Because there's a lot of chances for fraud and fail in that area, right? So that's one question. Second question is, in countries which have territorial restrictions on data, how do we make sure the properties or blockchain, the positive points that blockchain offers is ensured? Because when it's restricted in a territory, the attack or the fraud authentication chances for it is more. So these are my two questions.
So with respect to the first question, how do you track containers? Of course, you have to collaborate with shipping companies. When it got boarded, till when is it there in the ship, when it got to the customs, and when it got clearance, and then FDA clearance, etc. All these are happening again physically, or they're in silos, but you have updates of what's happening. So if I would say that the importer would pay after the product reaches the delivery point of the importer, now it's not just importing, you have to clear the warehouse and get it to the final destination. And that is when the importer says, I'll pay the goods. So till that time, the goods are moving across, and you do get inputs from shippers, from the transporters, when the warehouses, that these products have come in. Again, these are all on their own individual silos technology. They use their own SAPs, which are not connected, which will have connectivity to our platform as well through APIs to ensure that you know where the product is, right? If you export a container of seafood, you have to ensure that it reaches Walmart in a particular way. And all the other companies are giving API data as well. The second question is data. So again, what information was there on a piece of paper as bill of lading or certificate of origin or invoicing, what was there sent by DHL, FedEx to the importer's place or the bank so that they can do it. So there is territorial data movement that is happening. The same way, again, just like open platforms, your data and storage. Today it will be stored in, let's say, a cloud, again going to a cloud of the US. There is transfer of data happening from two different systems. Similarly, there will be data, because if you're exporting goods, they need documents of certificate of origin or the bill of lading, or the health certificates. That must happen. Again, this is part of business process. So we are just, like I said, we're just taking the features of blockchain and technology, which is huge and humongous as far as the impact is concerned, and connecting that to an already existing business, which have already put the compliance processes into play, which we can always, have a checklist and have a standardized across the process. Is that?
So basically, this is playing with the process of how the operations are happening rather than the methodology.
Absolutely. So, all these things are laid down. How do you send the health certificate, right? So health certificate, okay, I can send it through paper. I can send it through the cloud as a PDF file. And now I can send it as a token also. So how does it matter? You're just changing the way technology says. You can't, nobody wants to come and say, no, don't send it on a piece of paper or an envelope. Okay, don't send it in PDF. I'd like to have a JPEG of that file. So, these are the technologies is changing, but ultimately you're just transferring the information. So between a PDF and token, I can prove a token is maybe better than a PDF to send the data. So the process still continues, whereas a new technology that came in is just being used to drive that existing process.
Yeah, thank you. Those were good insights.
In my case, it would be the pairing technology which is required. For example, we use NFC tags, near field communication tags. We use QR codes, or we could use RFID tags. So that identifier becomes important, because that carries that encrypted data, and that establishes the provenance in that matter. So just to add to what Avira has said, it's a movement of data, and we are taking non-sensitive data mostly, and it is product data and the origin data, which of course we'll try to be compliant with every country's data regulations as far as possible. So yeah, that is it in short.
Great. Yes, one more question we'll take.
Hi, my name is Vasant. The question is regarding, this authenticity, or, the certifying authority, right? I mean, how do you solve that problem? Because in so many different areas, there might be a requirement for the certifying thing. If I am a well-known brand, I myself am a certifying authority. But say, let's take some case like organic foods, which is already costly, right? How do you establish something saying that, this is authentic? And how do you make it without making the product more costly than it already is? So is there any thoughts about this?
Yes, actually, thank you for this question, because that has been on our minds quite from the beginning, this particular problem. In the sense, how do we establish authenticity in terms of, so you can think this way, gold for that matter, right? Gold has BIS mark to it. So that BIS, if we can put it, again, it would require a lot of government interaction. If we talk to the BIS key, you put that data with an or certificate, right, on an NFC tag, and encrypt the data, and then whoever has that gold item will show that, and But how it prevents counterfeit is that counterfeit, if you understand, it means ek ka 100. If I have one original, I'll make 100 copies of it. So that is the incentive. But with this protocol, or with this passport in place, what will happen is he can do 1 for 1. He can swap 1 for 1. So that reduces the incentive for his entire thriving counterfeit business from 1000x to 1. So that is one of the ways in which we are trying to arrest this disease, because it goes beyond just economic losses. It creates deaths also. Like, it's almost 1.5 million children die every year due to fake malaria drugs. So it's a concern not just in the economic state of affairs, but also it deals with people's lives. So so far we have failed the techniques that have been used so far, but we're trying to build something through this, so that at least we can reach 70%, 60% of solving this problem. Yeah.
Thanks. I think we're going to have to wrap up. We can obviously answer questions after. Before I turn the mic over to Suri, I just want to say thank you to each of you for spending a couple hours with us this evening at the Algorand Foundation. We're very grateful for this partnership and certainly grateful for having real pioneers in Avira and Abhijit who are building solutions that are really transformative. I think you've gotten a little glimpse into it, and these are still early days for both of them, but their companies, their ideas, the solutions they're building are really quite transformative, and it's really what we live for at Algorand. So thank you both for being here. Thank you all for being here. Surya, Madan, thank you guys for your hospitality.
Thank you very much, and very, very interesting and interactive. The gentlemen will be here for the networking, so please do stay. We are not yet done. Just to get to the next level, I would request Madan Padagi, the president of TiE Bangalore, to give a small token of appreciation to these gentlemen. Madan, I would request you to please come on stage. We'd like to have a small photo op. Ritu, please join us on the stage. Go ahead. Yeah. So while before we actually close for the networking, I would request Madan to kindly come back on the stage and give a slight or rather in-depth information about what we plan to do for the year. As you all know, the TiE Global Summit has been something we have been talking about. So I would request Madan to kindly give more insights about the TGS 2024. Madan.
Thanks, Surya. Good evening, everybody. And first of all, thanks to Anil and the Algorand Foundation for this partnership. And we've been doing a series of these knowledge-sharing workshops. I think this is what, the third or the fourth event in the series. And we have a range of programs for the rest of the year as well. Interestingly, I think even before we jump into TGS, our annual flagship tech event, Matrix, is back again. We are hosting it on the 7th of May, 6th and 7th of June. Suddenly I'm losing months. Not in May, thank God. We have more time. And obviously, we'll be doing a lot more on blockchain in partnership with Algorand. So that's going to be a next big event coming up in a couple of months. So stay tuned for updates. I think maybe by April, we should have the program firmed up. It's going to be a fascinating show. Especially, we are all coming supercharged and super tired after a 3-day startup Mahakumbh in Delhi. I just got back this morning. The energy was crazy, palpable, but sometimes we wonder how we got out alive. We had a near stampede for our PM's talk last morning. In fact, you should watch that. We will share the link. You can Google it. It was a very, very inspirational talk. And he spent a lot of time in that talk speaking about how India will shape the future of AI, quantum, semiconductor, and every other emerging technology. So I think that sets the stage very well for the conversations we are having here. So we will try and further this. I would also request that this is just not an event. What we aspire with Algorand is to build a community. It's just not each of you in the room have a wealth of knowledge and information that is shareable with everybody else, right? But given the constraint of the format, we had to put a few people on the stage, and I think the questions were very interesting. So I would urge all of us to stay connected with this community, right? Maybe one of the things we could do, and I'm just thinking aloud here, Anil, is that when we have a matrix group on LinkedIn, one way is to kind of join that group, but also to have maybe at some experts from your end or any of you can take a lead every week or every fortnight to initiate one thread of a conversation, right? Some of you may be talking about finance, somebody may talk about manufacturing, somebody may talk about logistics, right? So if we can curate conversations, then the community builds, right? Otherwise, we come here, we learn, we network, but then we get back to our own cocoons of daily work, and we tend to kind of sometimes lose the bright sparks that have emerged here, right? So I'm thinking that how do we continue to keep the momentum going so that when the next event happens, we elevate it one level up, right? So it will also give us feedback in that forum on what kind of topics are of interest to you, so that when we are curating the next event with Anil and team, we have an idea saying that, hey, here is where the maximum interest is coming from. Can we source experts from across the world to share such ideas, right? So I would look to Ritu and Surya to figure out how we can start building this community. And obviously, come December, which we'll talk about the TGS, I want the Web3 community to be the largest pavilion out there, supported and led by Algorand, and we must create a lot of excitement about how the future can unfold. Interestingly, there's a huge amount of interest. One of the recurring themes, interestingly, in Delhi was every time we spoke about tech, the Delhi walas will look apologetically at us and say, I don't know why we are doing this Mahakumbh in Delhi. We should be doing it in Bangalore, right? Because Bangalore is the tech capital, right? So I think, well, the policy noise happens in Delhi, the real work happens here. I was about to tell you that. So Ritu said, I'm not coming to Delhi next year for the Mahakumbh. I said, don't worry, Mahakumbh will come here. Anyway, so what I would suggest is that once the community, two is, I think we have an opportunity to put out thought papers and position papers together. Right? So if some of you were to volunteer to say, I was just sharing with Ritu, maybe with all of our speakers and a few of us, if we were to capture the summary of our conversations today, right, and talk about what are the implications for the future, if we need to take this further, what does the ecosystem actors have to do? So it could be a simple 4-page summary or whatever. I think producing those kind of knowledge reports out will also help us to push our points of view. Like yesterday at the Startup Mahakumbh, I was meeting the CEO of the ULIP, the Unified Logistics Integration Platform, right, which is under DPIT. He was saying, hey, give me ideas, right? What can ULIP do to further penetration of logistics and reduce cost? This forum would be ideal to have a conversation with him. And he's happy to come down to Bangalore to have a conversation with all of us, right? But we need to put something on the table, right? We need to say, hey, here are our thoughts. Here are the ideas from whatever, 50, 100 odd people who have put their thoughts together. Then we'll get things done, right? So I'm seeding this because, clearly the direction that we're taking is TiE has to, and all of us, we are a part of the community, has to make the needle move, right? It's just not, we lead eventful lives by attending too many events. We need to make each event count, right? And it has to add to collective voice. That's what I was reflecting post Startup Mahakumbh as well, that there's such a wealth of information and knowledge here with all the partners, with all the experts we can source. I think it's time to start putting more structured voices out there from the community here. Right? So are we all game to do this? Super. Great. So with that, let me shift gears. I know many of you would have heard this, but we're going to be like a broken record till December about the Thai Global Summit, which is what we are very excited about. Let's play a quick video. Some of you, how many of you have seen the video before? A few. Okay. Which means we can keep playing it till all the hands go up in the room, right? So if we can just share our vision, then we'll talk about it for a few minutes and then we will break for cocktails.
TGS 2024 is just not another event. It is a movement to unleash the boundless potential of human enterprise. Imagine all of us coming together to co-create the Olympics of entrepreneurship. 25,000 plus participants lighting up the world with the power of enterprise. Putting entrepreneurship first means to advocate the power of entrepreneurship as the primary driver of economic growth and social progress with various governments and other policymakers, and also to promote it as the first choice of career for all of our youth.
So you get the overall gist. So just as a quick summary, Thai Global Summit is the convergence of all Thai chapters across the world. We have 60 of them across 14 countries that get together, not just at Thai, but as an overall global ecosystem. Last year was Singapore. Some of us were there. Previous year was Hyderabad. How many of you have attended a TGS before? Okay, not many. Great. So which means this is going to be your first TGS. Usually has about 3,000-4,000 people and about 1,000 odd global delegates. We are trying to amp it up significantly because we are Bangalore, right? If it's 3,000 elsewhere, it has to be at least 5x here, right? If not 10x. So that's what the dream is. Come December 9th to 12th, we're going to have a 4-day event here. We've chosen Bangalore International Exhibition Center as the venue. The good news is there'll be a metro right at its doorstep sometime in July or August. Even if it gets delayed by a few months, hopefully by December it'll be there. And the last day is going to be in Mysore, where we're going to celebrate cultural entrepreneurship. So the vision really is, coming back to my earlier point, Thai Global Summit is just not an event. We want to really make it a trigger, right? So we're trying to do a few things. One, maybe in April or May, or maybe during our matrix, we will announce that the selection process for the Thai Global Summit's 100. So our endeavor at Thai is to spot the top 100 startups globally, which could define the future of the world, right? So in 5 years hence, can we say that these 100 really have changed the way the world operates? So we're not talking about unicorns, not talking about necessarily only about unicorns. We're saying, can we identify the most impactful 100 startups in the world, right? And can we showcase them at TGS? Can we get them to meet investors? So we're going to spread that word. We need a lot more companies, ideas to apply. We are also going to bring in a lot more of non-tech into tech, right? Last week, right here, I think 10 days ago, it seems like many days ago, we did the Thai Foodpreneur Summit. This hall had, we had opened up the other side, we had what, more than about 250 odd people who turned up for a full day, and we had a fantastic day-long Foodpreneur Summit with over about 30 plus 35 speakers. Everybody talking about the intersection of food, consumers and technology. We're going to soon do something around travel and tourism, something around wellness and health, something around home decor, construction. So the idea is to spread the spirit of entrepreneurship beyond tech. Of course, tech will continue to play the big role, but essentially this idea that we were talking about, teas, right? How does consumers getting better tea get impacted by technology, right? So we want to have more of those conversations rather than just tech-only conversations. And lastly, the dream, which the Prime Minister also announced yesterday, we launched a program called the Futurepreneurs Program, which TAI is leading nationally. The idea is to identify the most inspiring 1,000 youth entrepreneurs across the country and bring them into Bangalore in December. And we're going to have a youth entrepreneurship festival, right? So the idea is, how do you inspire every youth in every village or every taluk of the country to think of entrepreneurship as a viable career option? Today, outside of Bangalore, 9 out of 10 kids you ask, what do you want to be? Most of them end up saying, I want a government job, right? In 5 years, we have to shift that. We want all of them to say, I want to be an entrepreneur, not necessarily a tech, but can they set up a food business? Can they set up a travel business in their own towns? Can they employ 5-10 people, right? So we're talking of not unicorns, but nanocons, right? So there's a lot of ideas that we have for this event. Already the momentum has begun. We've started to identify themes and speakers and sponsors and stuff like that. So especially we have a lot of our charter member community now jumping in. MM is here, Gopal. All of you are, we're going to now whip up the whole conversations around with charter members, but it's all our event. So Ritu, Surya and the team are all leading the charge. Any which way that you think you can contribute, please jump in. We need a lot of hands, legs, minds and hearts to pull this off. And we're looking at all of you to jump in, contribute in any which way you can, and let's make it our event. At an event that will, I love saying this, but we'll see, we have to make it happen. And I'm tired of going to the valley and saying, oh, you're from Bangalore, the Silicon Valley of the East. I want them to come to Bangalore and we have to say, oh, you're from Silicon Valley, the Bangalore of the West. Right? We got to change that narrative. We have to shift the center of gravity of entrepreneurship here, because this is where it's all happening. And that's the endeavor of this event. So look forward to working with all of you. And let's make it, an event that turns into a movement. People must remember this for years, right? How IT.com in '99 revolutionized the IT industry, right? Our dream is in some form or shape, TGS in Bangalore must start changing the way or shifting the orbit of entrepreneurship in Bangalore. So look forward to all of your support and working together. Thank you.
Very small, simple steps. Each of us here can at least forward a video, whom they think
beautiful
can simple one step click. Just forward the video of this. It's such inspiring, and I'll do it.
Lovely.
Okay, and put it in your groups. There are so many WhatsApp forwards you do.
Exactly.
Okay, simple
Great
steps,
idea.
very
Great
simple
idea.
steps, very baby steps.
Beautiful.
Okay, not big deal. Okay, that's it.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. I love it when we end any meeting with a call to action. Okay, so we have a very simple call to action. By the way, we've also opened up pre-registration, right? So we are saying, hey, pay 500 rupees, pre-register. Now, whether we're going to price it at 5,000, 7,000, 10,000, we'll figure out the costs of the program. But we are saying if you're a pre-registered community, we will open it up. So, simple call to action. Lovely. There we go. Okay. Any other commitments? There we go. Okay. So, let's do this. I think it's a great idea. We'll watch the pre-registered number. Maybe we'll circulate it back to this group. All we will do is we will circulate this video. We have a LinkedIn link as well, which announces this. Send it in your groups. We have a pre-registration link. 500 rupees. Let's get as many pre-registrations as possible. Right? We have a scan code as well. Vijeta himself will get 50 today. Yeah. It's directly proportional to the amount of number of registrations proportional to the amount of alcohol that you had. But great, that's a but this is fantastic. Thank you so much. Have a great evening. And Anil, thank you again for from all of us. You're a part of the community, so lots to do together. Thank you. Have a great evening. Thank you.